Holy crap, look at that alt art on the Jinteki ID. That is so awesome. I'm getting my grubby hands on it. And speaking of Jinteki, I have a match for you today, showing off my new shiny Jinteki personal evolution deck. It's one of the weakest IDs currently available, but I'm trying to make it work. You won't get to see too much of my deck working though, because I'm facing up against a very odd curveball Chaos Theory deck. So yeah, this is not so much as a showing of my deck, but rather how his deck works. He starts off by installing Personal Workshop, Mr. Lee, and hosting a prepaid voice pack onto the Personal Workshop. Already you know that something is amiss. Well, when you see Chaos Theory across the table and it's an octagon game, you know that people are experimenting with all sorts of things. So yeah. I continue building up my centrals. I certainly don't want to be hammered by an account siphon or the like. He spent the next entire turn clicking for credits, which was a very dubious move, in my opinion. But you can tell that his deck is definitely event-based because he's using a prepaid voice pad. What sort of events? Well, I'll be expecting account siphons, so until I see more of his deck, I can't really confirm though. So, alright, he treasures an R&D interface. So, I think that should have been the signal to prepare to protect R&D. But I clearly didn't get the memo. Instead, I was busy chalking up credits, clicking for credits, just so that I can get past the 10 credit mark needed to play my restructure, which was in my opening hand. He plays a New Angela City Hall. Alright, this sets off all the alarms, all the bells ringing in my head. What do you expect when the opponent plays Natch? Of course, Vamp. There might not be an account siphon in there, but there certainly will be a Vamp. So to protect against that, I need to ice up HQ even more. But first, get the clone retirement out of the way. Because my hand is starting to be clogged up by agendas, which is definitely an inherent problem of my Jinteki deck. I find myself agenda flooded way too often, and that's a very bad thing. But thankfully, I'll be icing up HQ a lot, so that should be fine. Yeah, I was contemplating installing one of the barriers over HQ, but seeing that he's taking his own sweet time to set up and that he's low on credits, I decided to leverage on this wonderful opportunity to score my Nisei. I know that he doesn't have an inside job. He probably doesn't. I mean, he might. It's an event-based deck, but I'm hoping that he doesn't. And with so few credits, he won't get in. And sure, he doesn't. However, he now shows his cards. He reveals his hand. It's an activist support, and he avoids attack with New Angela City Hall. So it's not a Vamp deck. It's a bad publicity deck. And if he's handing out bad pub, you know what's coming. Blackmail. So I instantly have to get rid of the Nisei that's hiding in my remote. Get it out. Make sure I get the Nisei token. This will be very important when he decides to blackmail run me. So I think by now you should be able to tell what his deck is trying to do. Through repeated use of blackmails, look at the same old thing he has on his side of the board. He'll be able to use blackmail a lot of times, and with the R&D interfaces that he's installing, I'll be in a whole world of trouble. He's going to R&D lock me with blackmail until he wins. Now, there is some good news. Because I'm playing Jinteki, I think Jinteki is the one ID you do not want to see when you're playing this sort of blackmail deck, because there is an inherent way to remove bad pub easily in faction. It's called clone retirement. Sadly, I do not have any clone retirements in my hand. The one that I had, I played out too early. I played it out well before I knew of his strategy. So that was very unfortunate for me. I tried to get some agendas going. That was a NAPD. Yes, I tried to get the NAPD going because I knew that he wouldn't be able to steal it with so few credits. But the next turn, I soon realized that because he stuck the bad pub on me, I cannot score the NAPD. Oh man, that hurts. I need to dig for my clone retirement to get rid of the bad pub. He's getting ESOPs out, which means that he no longer has to clear the tag every turn, which is very important. It will save him 2 credits and a click every turn. So I'm leveraging on this downtime now. I need to find that clone retirement that is sitting in my deck before he hits it with blackmail plus R&D interface. That is a very nasty combo. He can easily R&D lock me to oblivion, so that must not happen. He runs and liberates another R&D interface, so now he's seeing 3 cards at one go. Without a Jackson Howard, it's very hard for me to dig out my clone retirement, so I'm in huge trouble right now. I thought about it, and I still cannot score my NAPD. Remember, I still have that 1 bad pup. So I told him I needed to think about it, to think of my next course of action, which will affect how the game goes down the road. I have 15 credits, which was a decent amount, but 15 credits are useless when you cannot use them to res your ice. So I thought about it, and I decided to wait for a breeding space of time where he has no blackmails and no same old things, where he's trying to draw them up with Mr. Lee, giving me 1 or 2 turns of safety. After these turns of safety, I will immediately draw 3 cards from R&D, breaking the R&D lock, and hopefully I'll find 1 of 2 cards. The clone retirements, 2 left in my deck. So he plays 2 more same old things, and econs up. Alright, so since I saw the same old things, I knew this was the turn that I had to start drawing up. I drew up, I broke the R&D lock, and I saw the Caprice Nisei. There's a chance that using the 3rd click to draw will net me a clone retirement, but it's too risky. So instead, I installed the Nisei on R&D to hopefully break the R&D lock. Then I can safely draw up my clone retirements. Meanwhile, he continues drawing cards, which was really weird because he had Mr. Lee out. Whatever. With a Caprice Nisei, I'm now more safe because now I can safely draw stuff from R&D, including these stuff such as June bugs and clone retirements. I didn't see any clone retirements, but I saw the June bug, which was quite important. I could play traps anytime, and hopefully he'll blackmail into my trap. That would be awesome. And all this while, I've been keeping in my mind that I still have a Nisei token to use should I need it. So that is something to keep in mind. I played the side game, and this time I passed. Thankfully, this was very important. Passing this side game was very important because had he broke the R&D lock, I would be in deep trouble. Yeah. And all this while, I've also advanced the NAPD in the remote by 1. So now I have, now I can score it within 1 turn, which is quite important. He misclicks here. He intended to perform a blackmail run with the same old thing, but misclick on the diesel instead. And I allowed him to take it back, but he couldn't really do that because because he already saw the 3 cards that he drew, so he had to stick with it and move on with the game. In the meantime, I mandatorily drew into a clone retirement, and that was immediately pushed out of my hand. Now he can no longer blackmail me. But as soon as I did that, the activist support returned back onto the board. Jeez, this guy never stops. Alright, so I decided to continue scoring agendas to put me on match point. There was nothing I could do about the bad pup that was about to hit me. And now he's back to being able to blackmail me. Caprice Nisei is very, very good against this strategy simply because, as if clone retirement wasn't disruptive enough to his strategy, requiring him to reinstall the activist support. Caprice Nisei really screws him over because I can still res Caprice Nisei even when he's doing a blackmail run and stop his run dead cold. It's pretty much the only thing that can stop a run. And yes, he had to face it. So since he couldn't attack R&D reliably, he went to HQ and he scored the NAPD contract. What I didn't remember was that because he scored an agenda, his new agenda City Hall was trashed. I had to ask him about it, and yes, I realized that the City Hall was trashed when the runner steals an agenda. So now he is tagged. He couldn't remove the tag. I needed a while to think about whether I should trash any of his resources. If he had a same old thing, I would definitely trash it. But without it, there's not much point in trashing any of his items. Aesop's maybe, but he already has a magnum opus out, which will generate more than enough money for him. So I decided to cut my losses. I was starting to dwindle low on credits. At this point, I needed to think again because he still is able to blackmail me, and I need to score one more agenda point, which is not easy. I cannot just rely on the last clone retirement in my deck. I need to score one of these agendas into the remote and hope that he doesn't blackmail me. In the end, I decided to lay a trap, lay the Junebug, and hopefully, since I'm on match point, he will fall into the trap. Because when Jinteki is on match point, you're forced to pretty much check everything in case they snatch the victory out of your pants. So he does the same old thing and blackmails my remote server. I let him through successfully. This should have set off the fire alarms in his head. I had a Nisei token out, and if that was an agenda, I would have stopped him with the Nisei counter. Had he jacked out of that run, the game would have continued and I might have lost. But instead, he didn't hit he didn't realize that, yeah, I had a Nisei token. That Nisei token actually worked against me. So because of that, he ran with 3 cards in hand and flatline for me to snatch the victory. That definitely could have gone his way. But that singleton Junebug in my deck definitely saved me. So, well, interesting play on both sides, I must say. Again, I did not get to show off the full potential of my deck, which contains the likes of Matrix Analyzer and RSVP to really punish the runner for running into my remote. However, since he's not even raising any ice on my remote, there's nothing I can do with all those ice. So I had to rely on the agendas that I scored early on, coupled with a couple of traps, and of course Caprice Nisei, the star of the deck. Too good. That card is so good, it's borderline broken. Yeah, I'll try to get more videos of my Jinteki deck running. Hopefully, I can show you how my Jinteki deck actually works against normal runners. So, yeah, just for you to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you around next time.